Years ago, there was this website where you could play chess, but online multiplayer. You started out with just a king, but could move around to collect pieces, and each piece you captured joined your army. Sadly, the site barely works now because the piece movement is offset, so I guess this piece of the internet will be lost forever. Unless, maybe my friend who's a web developer can recreate it. No? Okay, how about my other friend? No, 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 definitely no, and no. It was at this point I remembered I knew how to code, despite the best efforts of the YouTube comments on my last video to tell me otherwise. So let's make it! I started by creating a new JavaScript project, and the first thing I did is get a chessboard rendering. I got this beige square on my screen, and then to get the checkerboard effect, I looped through all the squares and only drew a green square if the x plus y position was even. Next, since the board is going to be much bigger in the future, I added camera controls so you could zoom and move around. And I made it so that shift made you move a little bit faster, but that didn't exactly go according to plan. Now, chess has puzzles and puzzles have pieces, so let's get some pieces in the game. Since this is a small project, I borrowed the piece sprites from chess.com and put them in the game, and as expected it worked perfectly on the first try. Then I wanted to make the pieces move around, and if this was a single player game that would be easy, but in a multiplayer game, here's what I had to do. Establish a WebSocket, send a byte validate message, render the piece on the use relativity to correct for time dilation. And there we go, just like that the piece movement is working. Also, I may or may not have set it up so that the server calls the local police department if you make an illegal move. So don't try to bot the game, or there will be consequences. Up until now, I'd only tested the game with one player, but with multiple, things became confusing. Yo, why can't I move this knight? Oh, that's because it's my knight. So I gave everyone a random color, and to make sure it was consistent on everyone's screen, I used the player's ID as the random seed. Then I brought back the white pieces and made them spawn randomly throughout the map, and if you captured one, it would join your army. But with capturing came this bug where you could capture your own pieces. I was thinking of leaving it in, but you could checkmate yourself, so bug, your time has come. Instead, let's get checkmate working properly. I made it so that when you capture someone else's king, all their pieces get neutralized and then they respawn in a few seconds elsewhere. If you're the one receiving checkmate, you now see this text that oscillates with the sine wave, which will hopefully make even dying a bit fun. Then I added sounds. But when there's many players moving around at the same time, it does become a bit much, so I made them only play when you move your own piece. But there was still one lingering issue. If I wanted the game to support 10,000 players, well, 10,000 players had to actually be able to run the game. I expanded the board to 64 by 64 and noticed that, well, not even one person could run the game because the game had to draw 250,000 squares per second. To fix this, I figured out the coordinates of the top left and bottom right of the screen and only drew things that fell in between them, which massively sped up the game. And that's normally where projects like these would have ended, but I wanted to try adding a few extra features this time, like a chat. So now by pressing enter you can send chat messages, except if it's a bad word of course. Initially, I gave everyone a username based on their color, but it was simpler to make the text have the player's color, so I went with that instead. Then I added this minimap and a piece movement cooldown, and thought the game was pretty much done. So with absolutely no testing, I told my Discord server, I extensively tested this one, so I promise there's no bugs this time, and we did a playtest. Here's some of the best clips I got. But after doing the playtest, I still felt like something was missing. I couldn't figure out exactly what it was, so I took a break and did some other things like training this AI model. And then I realized the reason we train AIs or play games is to see improvement. So I made the final addition to the game, which was this leaderboard, which displays how many kills you have. And with that, after a few HackerMan commands, the game was finished and available for y'all to play at chess.ytdraws.win. So if you want to play it for yourself, check it out, and thank you so much for watching.